Welcome to it, sports fans. A different ball game, another day, another show. What an awesome day to be alive. Great day in Joburg today, by the way. Awesome weather in Johannesburg in the slap bang middle of winter. It was awesome. Today we got an interesting show lined up today. I'm going to tell you how we're going to fix cricket. And Woude's going to give us the best right wingers in Springbok history. And then we got legendary commentator Gerald de Kock on. But I'm not alone, of course. The lovely Woude Muller is with me. Hey, Woude, how are you doing?
Hey, yes. Sorry, I am recording from a different space today. I have a lot of Wi-Fi issues. So I think this background is actually nicer than the one I have at home.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Very nice. You adjusted. You did what we call in the business pivoted. You pivoted from a difficult position. It's an industry word.
A boer maak 'n plan. That's how we say it in Afrikaans.
Ja, dis wat hulle sê. 'n Boer maak 'n plan dit werk. 'n Boer maak 'n plan dit werk. Very good, Woude. Woude Muller, all the way from George, showing a little bit of variety there. Otherwise, all good there, Woude.
Oh, no, it's all good. Playtime's good. I don't know what it's like outside because I don't really go outside, but I'm sure no one is flattening the curve here. But it's good. I saw some person screaming in the streets out of a car today that people need to wear their masks and be inside, but that's about.
But we're going to get straight into it. Right, here's the secret in life. Now, I'm single, right? So I've heard from other people that you should never, ever make your girlfriend more important than your wife. The problem is never having the girlfriend is don't make the girlfriend a bigger priority than the wife. The ICC's made that mistake. And it's coming back to haunt them right now. Because they've made Test cricket the least important form of the game, right? And what they've done by doing that is that they're making players choose. Players are your product. Why would you want to make them stressed out by having to choose? Okay, I want to play Test cricket because that's where the best players play, but I also want to earn $1.5 million. Listen, you can't expect Steve Smith to watch David Miller make $1.5 million for 6 weeks of work, and then he says, oh, the pride of wearing the baggy green is worth it. It's ridiculous. Sport is a business now. I know people don't want to hear it, but sport is a business now. So stop making your product choose. Don't make your girlfriend more important than your wife. So let me tell you the problem with Test cricket and international cricket, the way it's set up right now. I just want to tell you, last year, 2019, April, right, running September 2019 to April 2020. That's the season. That's how the calendar season runs. 29 Test matches, 78 ODIs, 145 T20s. That's 5 times the amount of Test matches that were played. You had T20s. So what you're doing is you're talking to me. You're telling me that's our priority. I don't need to guess. I'm not guessing. You're telling me that's the priority. But then at the very same time, you're doing something else. So I want to show you what the Test championship table looks like. And, you know, the great Pat McAfee says this, is you never leave your faux show job for mo job because you'll end up with no job. So never leave your faux show job for mo job because you end up with no job. So let me tell you what's happening here. India, Australia, England, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, South Africa, West Indies, Bangladesh. This doesn't make sense as a table because Australia have played 10 Test matches and West Indies have played 2. It's a shambles. This is not a championship. And don't tell me about COVID. This was never going to work with COVID, without COVID. So here's what you do. It's very, very simple because this is a joke. This is a shambles. This is ridiculous. Separate the Test season from the T20 season. Stop making your players choose between the two. Test matches happen over a 5-month schedule. It's non-negotiable. Those that get picked, get picked. If you're not picked there, you're playing local cricket. T20 season, you have 2 months of the year. Big Bash IPL, you all compete for one space. There's lots of cricketers in the world. They all want the money. There's plenty of money going. Give it a window, right? Give it 2 months, because the seasons are only 6 weeks long. So if guys want to burn themselves out and they want to play IPL, they want to go play in Pakistan, they want to go play in Bangladesh, they want to go play in the West Indies, let them. It's up to them. But separate the T20 season from the test seasons, because what you're doing now is you're diluting the product. First of all, there's too much T20 cricket, right? But then what you're really doing is because you make the players choose, you dilute test cricket. And here's where you really do the worst. India and Australia and England are polar opposite in every country. So you're cheating the fans and you're cheating the product. Test matches last 3 days now. What it's telling you is the players are going, oh, we have to do this. We don't want to do this. That's what it's telling you. Guys are going to follow the money. It is the ICC's job to find the money to make test cricket the priority. Stop telling me T20 cricket is the most profitable. It's not your job to tell me what's most profitable. It is your job to make test cricket profitable. I don't want to hear it. So, because that table makes no sense, I just want to show you how ridiculous the points table is as well. So it's not like you get the same points just for playing in a series. So try and make this out. I'm going to read it for our podcast audience, right? Each team plays 6 series, with each series counting for 120 points, distributed over the number of matches in a series. For example, a 2-match series will mean 60 points for each test, while a 3-match series will give you 40 points in each test. A tie will be 50% of the points available, whilst a draw will be 3-to-1 ratio points. I mean, what are we... Am I here to play cricket, or am I here to be an aeronautical engineer? The more complicated you make sport, the less fans want to be involved. Ask Super Rugby. Ask Super Rugby what happens when you complicate it. I don't want to watch Test cricket when I have to have I have to win a Fields medal just to be able to figure out the points thing. In the Premier League, 3 points win, 1 point draw, 0 points loss. Home, away, that's it. Separate the season. You have 5 months to be Test cricket season, and then you have the other months. You figure it out, 2 months, IPL. That's it. Or T20 cricket. Because what you're doing now is a joke. But my real thing and final point. Now you're telling me what most people don't want to admit. And I'll say it for every single sport so that it's clear. Cancel international sport. We see it in football. Guys don't want to play international football. Why? You can't make international sport profitable. Because Uruguay in football can't play Germany every weekend. And the Germans, quite frankly, probably don't want to go to Uruguay to play football every weekend. But the Premier League, now there's a product. Local. So here's what you do. You go South Africa, Australia, England, right? You are the Premier Leagues, the La Ligas, the Serie A's of cricket. So if you're the best in Bangladesh, go sell your services to Australia. Go sell yourself to Australia. If you're the best in England, but you can't get into a county team, go sell your services in England. And it is the ICC's job to ensure that those 3 leagues are so strong in the 4-day cricket that players want to come from around the world. And then if you've got a strong 4-day product, if you can play 4-day cricket, you can play 50 over cricket. If you can play 50 over cricket, you can play T20 cricket. And naturally the international game is strong. And what you do is like the Olympics. Simple as that. So here's my idea. If we're going to have international cricket, this is the way we do it. This is the way we do it. You have Premier League teams, and then you have championship teams below them. Promotion relegation. Bottom 2 in the Premier League, you're out. Top 2 in the championship, you're in. So in the Premier League, you have India, Australia, South Africa, and England. India, Australia, South Africa, and England. Why those teams? They are the teams who can afford it right now. They have the infrastructure ready right now to have world-class test matches. Those are the only countries. Listen, love Sri Lanka, love West Indies, love Bangladesh, love Pakistan, love New Zealand, but you're not ready. They're not ready right now to host world-class cricket. India, Australia, England, South Africa, those are the most profitable cricket nations in the world right now. You have that as a Premier League, you run that over 18 months, and then relegation scrap, it happens. The top two from the championship. In the championship, you have Sri Lanka, West Indies, Bangladesh, Pakistan, New Zealand. The season is 6 months, 5 months long, just test cricket. Everyone else is playing county cricket, they're playing local cricket, and then the T20 cricket happens afterwards. But that is my idea. If you're going to have test cricket, let's take it seriously. I don't want to see 2-match series. I don't want to see 3-match series. It's only 5 test match series. Otherwise, it's not a test series. Stop diluting the product. It's absolutely ridiculous. The World Cup is your Olympics. You have it every 4 years. T20 every 2 years. We move on with this thing. Otherwise, can the whole thing. Can international cricket because there's no money in it. And you're making players choose between the love of their country and what they should do, a short career and money. So you're cheating everybody. The players are your product. Look after them. The ICC right now is not looking after their product. And what's bad for the goose is bad for the gander. It's awful. ICC, get it together. Dave Richardson, I will address in another time because I think he got let off far too easily. He had the most disastrous reign cricket has ever seen, and he's been let off far too easily. And now the chickens have come back to roost. Cancel test cricket. I'm over it. Cancel international cricket if we're going to treat it like this because we're not serious. That's it. I told you. I fixed cricket. Make it local. Turn England, Australia, South Africa into the Premier Leagues. If you're the best in Bangladesh, go sell your services in Australia. There's no limitations. You play local cricket there. We make it every 4 years. You got the Olympics. That's the World Cup. Every 2 years, T20, then being the best cricketer. Because the best cricketers want to play test cricket. But should we just admit now it's time to move on? International sports are a waste across the board. Let's make it local. Let's fund that. Get billionaires to fund that. Make it exciting. I'd love to hear what people think. I'm purely a test cricket guy, by the way. Just so people know, it pains me to say it. But cancel test cricket. Cancel international cricket. Let me know what you think. Now we're going to talk about the greatest wingers, in particular right wingers, the Springboks have ever had. With that, Woude Muller, skip pass.
Those were some serious opinions there, Mbalelo. I'm quite impressed with so you fix rugby, you fix cricket. What else are you going to fix for us?
Hey, what you going to do? When you're good, you're good.
So, for those of you who watched last week, we had a look at the fullbacks from the 3 respective World Cup wins. I picked Percy Montgomery over Andre Joubert with a lot of criticism, I will add, but I still haven't changed my mind. I still think Percy's consistency and goal kicking puts him ahead of Andre Joubert. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I don't care. I'm sticking with it. So today we're going to have a look at the right wing. So number 14, for those of you who don't know. So we've got 95, we've got James Small, 2007, JP Peterson, and 2019, we've got the very small but very electric Cheslin Colby. Just starting with James, I mean, James is a great wing back in the day. He had everything that you needed from a wing then. He was big, he was strong, he wore his heart on his sleeve. He was an absolute rebel on and off the field, as we all know, but I just don't think he can be compared to JP and to Cheslin from stats perspective, I just don't think he's that kind of caliber, even though we will never forget his tackle and how committed he was to stopping the massive and the incredible Jonah Loma, as you can see in that picture there. He was incredible, but I specifically want to look at JP and at Cheslin today. So if we can get those stats up, Dave. Looking at their stats, you see JP in 2007, he had quite a long career. He started as a 20-year-old in 2007, and he finished in 2016 with the Springboks with 70 caps. He scored 120 points in test matches, and he scored 4 tries in Rugby World Cups. He had 3 Rugby World Cup tournaments, but he only won 1 World Cup out of those. 7-1 and 74. We all know he's a very small wing, very small player, so he's probably smallest guy. But he was really good as a youngster. I think as he got older, he lost a lot of that, and you should quit while you're ahead, in my opinion. Cheslin, on the other hand, he's only played 14 test matches for South Africa, and he scored 40 points. 3 tries in a World Cup, 1 World Cup win, and he's only played in 1 tournament. In Toulouse, he is an absolute legend. The people in France love him, and he's won a lot of awards in France for the way that he's played there. Like I said, he's a very small guy, but defensively, he is brilliant. He can stop any guy. His sidestepping is amazing, and I think the big thing that we always see about him is just that explosiveness that he brings from the wing. He reads the game really well, and he's got such great spatial awareness. He just knows, and just give him an inch on the field, and he will do whatever he wants to do. He doesn't need a lot of space, and he'll do so much with the little space that you do give him. And I love watching him play. He's probably not the coach's 14, if you want to say that. And if you're a rugby purist, you probably won't like it. But for me, I just love him. So, okay, time for my pick. Him to be quite a lazy player. He was really, when he was good, he was really good. But when he was bad, you could see that it wasn't nice to watch. In 2007, he probably was one of the standout wings. I would never say that he has been the best wing in the world ever. And then on the other hand, I think some might say Kolbe still needs more time to prove himself. 2 years hasn't been enough to really establish yourself as one of the best wings. And I don't think that can be compared to the 8 years that JP has played. But what really tips the scales for me is that Kolbe has achieved so much in 2 years. He had to overcome the whole issue around his size, the fact that people didn't want to pick him because he was really small. And I think he opened doors for a lot of other players with that same problem to prove you don't need to be big to be a brilliant player. And then, of course, which just puts another tick to his name, is in that World Cup final when he scored that try, he just skipped past Gerald Muller and he left Owen Farrell to just be able to do absolutely nothing. And just for that, I will even pick him. So for me, Kolbe takes it. And besides that, if you look at all these awards that he just did in 2019, or that he got top 14 player of the season, best top 14 player at the World Cup, he had the try of the season, he was nominated for World Player of the Year. In my opinion, he should probably have won it rather than Pieter-Steph du Toit. I know I'm going to get flack for that, but for me, there was more reason to give it to him than to give it to Pieter-Steph du Toit. He was World Player of the Year at the French Rugby Oscars, and I know this has got nothing to do with 15-man rugby, but he got a bronze medal at the 2016 Olympic Sevens. Most probably going to the Sevens again next year, hopefully a gold medal. And then to top that, I'm hoping that he will get a British and Irish Lions win. So Kolbe's my pick. So I've picked Percy Montgomery from 2007, and I've picked Cheslin Kolbe from the 2019 team. Okay, give it to me.
Cheslin Kolbe, huh? Wow. Okay. No one. It's not going to work for me. Cheslin, love you, but here's the thing: is rugby comes down to size. I know people are obsessed with this going to skill thing. That's a nice conversation to have at the pub with your friends. JP Peterson was unbelievable at his peak. He was as quick as anything you've ever seen at 102 kilo. A great finisher, actually. JP Peterson was genuinely, I believe, a better finisher than Brian Habana. Habana just had more intercepts and tries, and we attacked on the left more. So, no, I'm out on that. Well done to Cheslin, but I don't think so. No chance.
But this is exactly the reason. So and the one thing that you did say is that JP was really good in his prime. Cheslin Kolbe's only 26 years old. Imagine how many more years he's got left. And I think he'll just prove that he can do so much more than what JP did in his time. Towards the end of JP's career, there wasn't much to him anymore, Mbulela. I must be honest with you. He lost his pace. Yes, he was still good on defense because as a mature player, you learned a little bit more about the game and how to defend. But all in all, towards the end of it, there wasn't much to JP anymore. And I know that, so I did JP's rehab in 2010 when I was working with the Sharks. great guy, but unfortunately your reputation just doesn't make you the best rugby player. I think Cheslin has still got so much to prove. Yes, it's only been 2 years, but for me, I would pick him in my team. I think you need that explosiveness. Maybe some will argue that he will be better off the bench to bring that impact on. I just don't think you can go without him.
All right. Unless Cheslin Kolbe can gain 30 kilograms in the next 4 years, there's no ways I'm picking him over JP Peterson. But hey, you've made some great points, and he has been phenomenal. He can play scrum half, he can play fly half, he can play fullback, he can play wing. Fullback. So he's probably a better version of Bowden Barrett, really.
And he can play fly half. He can play fly half for Toulouse, and they almost won that match. He had a great conversion right from the try line for one of the Toulouse games. So I mean, there's so much more to this guy. So yes, you can maybe argue not the best wing, but I definitely think there's a chance that he could be one of the best rugby players that we've seen.
Okay. Oh, you've made a strong case. You've made a very, very strong case. Cheslin Kolbe, huh? So we got Percy Montgomery at fullback. We got Cheslin Kolbe. Folks, look out, every Wednesday we'll be picking our best per position in Springbok history from the World Cup victories. This time it's Cheslin Kolbe. Very good, Woude. I like that. You made a strong case. I think people are going to struggle to argue. I'd love to know what people think. Your choices: Greensides, James Small, JP Peterson, and Cheslin Kolbe. What a try! What a try past Owen Farrell. Great stepping. Very nice, Woude. I like that. I like that. Coming up now, that is the skip pass, ladies and gentlemen. Very nice, Woude. Legendary presenter, somebody who I looked up to when I was younger. The great Gerald de Kock is on the other side of this, folks. He's been to about 300 Olympics, former professional cricketer, former cricket commentator, former commentator at the Saints Rugby Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Gerald de Kock. How are you doing, Gerald?
I'm very good, thanks, Mbalelo. Thank you very much for that introduction. Actually, the dishwashing thing, I'm not a commentator, but I am very much an active athlete in that department at the moment, very much so, particularly during this phase of our lives. Oh, very much, yeah. And I'm, eventually I'll graduate to I'll retire from the dishwashing. Once lockdown is over, I can afford proper Wi-Fi and proper, connectivity and a dishwasher, and then I can, learn to commentate on dishwashing.
To really get into it. I like that. I want to see that clip of you commentating about dishwashing. It's the next thing. It's the next craze. Hey, where do we catch you? Because you're based in obviously Cape Town or in the Cape, but now we catch you where in the world?
I live down in the Western Cape, but at the moment I'm in the Drakensberg. In fact, I've been in the Central Berg from mid-December. It was one of these things. We took a decision to take 6 months to come and live at my wife's family home, and lo and behold, COVID, lockdown, and here we are. So we're actually coming to the end of our 6-month term here, and we're heading back down to the Cape very shortly. But I'm in the mountains, which is absolutely spectacular. It really has been very special. We're very lucky.
That's epic. Oh, so you had taken the decision anyway to go and live there. So it wasn't a coronavirus thing.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, we came down here, and my whole work life would have continued from here, traveling from around this part of the world to events all over the countryside and back to Johannesburg to work at Supersport, and my work at the Toyota Cadence show would have continued, which is still continuing, but we're doing it remotely. But yeah, it was a decision we took way before all this happened, and in a way, very lucky, because we were in some of our own sort of isolation anyway through December and January and February before this imposed isolation was set in.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That is awesome. That's something we're going to have to chat about. But Gerald, I want to get into your journey because, your voice is something, if you're South African, it's obviously synonymous with cricket back in my day. That's where I would say I know you from, and the Olympics, of course. And when you hear guys like yourself, it is what we call a theater of the mind, with the type of way you describe everything. Is this something
to get into commentary and to really express myself? And I think that I grew up in an era. We got television when I was 13, 14. So I grew up listening to the radio, listening to everything. And the memories I have from listening to international sport overseas, I used to listen on a Saturday afternoon to the BBC's sports program on the radio on shortwave. It was crackly, but that was my education in this medium, and it really was something I just loved. I just loved listening and creating the images in my mind. We grew up with a radio in every room in our house. My mother was very much a radio listener and a sports lover, so we were always listening to the radio. Gerry Coetzee knocked out Leon Spinks in 3 times in the first round in Monaco. I was at school and I listened to it with the radio under my pillow. In replays since, but I have that memory so strong in my mind of how that knockout happened because I could listen to it on the radio. I think Kim Shippey might have been the commentator. So yeah, those sort of things. So it was embedded in me in a way, and I found my way into it. As I said, when I realized that maybe I wasn't too good at cricket. I love my cricket and I love playing the game, but I just didn't have the extra bit of edge maybe, and I found a way to become a commentator and in broadcasting. I must tell you that after my first year in broadcasting at the SABC, I only found out years later that the head of the service said, well, what are we going to do with this guy? Because he's going nowhere. We can't, he's not finding any, he's no good. So I had to work a bit hard. In those days we did. I mean, it took me a year to get on live radio. It took me a year, well, maybe a bit more than a year to finally do a live show. So it was a different world.
Wow.
And I was very lucky.
That is a different world. And, so coming from that day, could you name maybe 1 or 2 people that you looked up to in particular? Were they South African? You said you were listening to the BBC. Was there a particular voice that you thought, oh my goodness, there it is. That's what I want to be?
As a young man, I grew up listening to cricket commentators in this country. A venerable old man called Charles Fortune, who was nearing the end of his career. He was a family friend of mine as it happened as a youngster. But he was the voice of cricket in this country. And then there was Martin Young in Cape Town, Michael Toms in Durban. And these are people I grew up listening to. And within a few years, I was working with them. It was a really, really odd environment. Internationally, there was a wonderful presenter in England called Des Lynam, who presented their showpiece program on a Saturday and all their major Olympic coverage and Commonwealth Games coverage. A beautiful broadcast.
Great voice. Great voice.
Yeah, great voice. And just the most natural way in putting the message across. And that planted a seed. Cricket-wise, Brian Johnston, one of the great voices of cricket commentary, was an early influence. I say, I mean, we didn't hear a lot of them, but I can still hear his voice. I can still hear the echo of his voice, and he brought the message home.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, some of those names, for those who don't know them, you really should go and look them up. But now, No, I mean, really, these are, because I'm a huge football fan and I still listen back to old commentary because I really, really, it's a craft. It's a craft. And when you hear greatness at work, it's very, very rare, but there are some great, Lynham in particular, special. And I mean, you're somebody I listened to when I was younger. I listened to, we had Trevor Quirk with you back in the day. These are voices that formed, the weather of my consciousness. The weather of my consciousness was formed by you guys. It's what I live for as a youngster and continue to today. So it's awesome that I get to speak to you. Gerald, something that I think we don't give enough credit to, and maybe you could explain it how you view it. What is the role of a commentator? Because sometimes people think it's a bunch of people that get to sit in a studio and talk. But in your mind, if you could talk to me, what's your role and the difference on commentating on sport on radio and then your role on television? There's a dichotomy there. Could you maybe talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think every or want out of a commentator. But yeah, I grew up in radio times, and it was interesting because through the 90s, I was full time in radio. While still at the SAFM at the SABC, but I started doing a lot of work on television. So I straddled both. And I found that working in radio helped me in television because you could fill out the gaps, you could talk. But in television, you don't need to talk all the time. Radio, again, was very different when I started. Although we did have television, there wasn't as much sport on television. So your viewer on television, your listener on radio, was starting to gain a single one of those in. Now, on radio, your viewer, your listener at least, knows pretty much what's going on because they generally have seen it. So it's a slightly different role now, I think, to what it was in those days. Television, I believe, is complementing the picture. The viewer is going to derive their own perspective out of it. And I think the commentator complements that picture, adding their own knowledge and insight into it, way above that, and take the viewer, the new viewer, out of the game. So we've got to straddle that balance because there are always people coming into the sport and coming in to listen and find out what it's all about. So you've got to keep a very neat balance between telling them the intricacies of all the technical aspects of a sport and just broadening it out and again, it's a difficult balancing act of not talking down and telling them what they already know. So it's a tricky old thing, but we try and do a balancing act. Yeah.
Hey, Gerald, great pivot speak about other countries is diabolical. Our cricket commentary has gone into the toilet. Now, you don't have to say this, but I can say this. And I think it's what you said is we're still a mentality of get ex-players to do it. So it's the presumption like, oh, if he's an ex-player, it doesn't matter if he can paint that picture and create the art of the mind. What do you think about that? Am I crazy? Am I being too critical? Because I think it's also become more of an entertainment now. Why aren't we engaging with more people that are maybe a celebrity enjoys? Let me give you an example. We had Maps Mapanyane the other day. So he can straddle the line between obviously being commercial and he loves cricket and football, right? Why aren't we even exploring that? Or am I crazy? Am I too new age and trying to shock the system too much?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've gone too far down the road. I think that the sport, I think people have so much information and insight into the sport nowadays, into sport, that they want the expertise. They want the ex-player. There's a certain, they bring obviously 30, 40, 50, 100 test caps and experience in the game. But that doesn't bring with you skills to communicate and get the message across necessarily. There are many around the world who have transformed from being excellent sports people to becoming even better in some senses broadcasters. But they're not that many. To be fair,
there is not.
There are a lot of ex-players. Yeah, there are a lot of ex-players who put in there. It's not entirely their fault. I've worked with people who we're doing this sort of thing. Everyone's doing their own thing media-wise. So yes, we shouldn't take a year, but in sense of preparing someone and giving them the tools to equip them to be able to get the message across and inform in a way that doesn't offend and doesn't grate people.
Put me to sleep.
is a tricky thing. Yeah. So it's not those players' faults in many senses. Sometimes, and there are, I know there's been training, and I've been involved in some of them, and it's again, you can train and you can talk to environment to put ex-players into. If you look at overseas and you look at international commentary, particularly football, the anchor commentator is very, very seldom an ex-player. The anchor commentator is a professional broadcaster.
Yeah.
Professional broadcaster, and he has the expert next to him. And that is the traditional old way of doing it. But it's not only the traditional old way of doing it, I believe, it's the right way of doing it. It takes the pressure off the ex-player having to do all the ball by ball and the descriptive that maybe doesn't come as naturally. He can stick to the technical side of it. He can stick to analyzing and picking out the issues in the game. Let the commentator do all the descriptive. That's where I think maybe there is a gap.
And do you foresee us doing anything about it, or have we gone too far down the road and now that avenue is closed for anybody? Because Gerald, they're not interesting. Like, honestly, I watch, can I tell you, I want to be honest with you. I watch rugby in South Africa with commentary off. I don't care who we're playing. It's unbearable, all of it. The Xhosa commentary is okay. I mean, I'm Xhosa, so it's okay for me. So it's pretty entertaining, but I'd rather have the commentary off than listen to our commentators. So I watched, and some of the cricket stuff, unless there's Peterson and Warne, I'm afraid I got to go. I got to go, Gerald, because they aren't paid. No, like you're saying. Go ahead.
No, it's a very difficult thing, and there'll be people who, when Peterson and Warne come on, will turn it off. So it's you very difficult to find the right balance, to get the right people. I spent very fortunate to work with in radio with BBC Test Match Special on a number of tours over there and tours here, and they had a format that a lead commentator would work. You would have 3 different lead commentators in an hour, 20-minute slots, and they were all different. Each one, some was serious and technical and on the game. Others would be more interested in the bus rolling down the Wellington Road than the game, and they'd miss deliveries. But there would be 20 minutes, and then you're on to the next commentator who brings something else. In between that, you would have the expert opinions person who does half an hour. So that person works 10 minutes with one commentator, 10 minutes with the other. Yeah. So the mix was very fluid. You never really got tired of anything. So again, I don't think that'll work necessarily on television now. We've gone to 3 commentators in some cases around the world. We've got cameras in studios. So it's a very different world. They're presenter commentators. They've got to look good. They're years, but he's one of the best broadcasters in the game. And he was a decent cricketer, but he's become probably a better broadcaster than he was a cricketer.
The best, the best, not one of the best, in my opinion, and I say this with no due respect, the best. There is a man who does it. But Gerald, that's so interesting to hear from you. And I think a lot of people maybe don't think of the role of the commentator being this important. So it's really interesting to hear you say this. I want to turn over to something which I know is a huge part of your life. How long have you been commentating at the Olympics? Let's start there.
My first Olympic experience was in '92 when in Barcelona, and I wasn't at the Olympics. I was in studio in Johannesburg. SABC sent a whole crew over to Barcelona, and I anchored in studio in Johannesburg. Then '96 again, another big team out to Atlanta. I went along for that, and so I was there in '96, and I've been at every game since then in various, commentary capacities, presenting capacities, but it's evolved again to a degree where the host broadcaster now is the Olympic organization, and they put on the whole games and contract commentators from around the world and then provide the pictures and the commentary for the English-speaking world and the rights holders around the world. when I first started, every nation had to try and make do with their commentary teams, and it was tricky. I mean, we couldn't find experts on Greco-Roman wrestling or table tennis or whatever. So you had to make do, and you had to go and learn about Greco-Roman wrestling or table tennis and make it happen. But now they get experts from around the world in those specific sports and provide the commentary for the world.
And which is your favorite sport to do? Because, how many have you done? And which is your favorite? Can you remember how many different sports you've actually commentated on?
No. There are
Gerald,
very few. I can tell you the few I haven't done. Like
dishwashing.
I haven't done.
We've established that.
Well, dishwashing is coming. It's coming. Racing, horse racing, not my game.
That's a tough sport, right, to commentate.
I have utmost respect for those men and women who do racing commentary. But show jumping, table tennis, wrestling, I have boxing, badminton, handball, ice hockey. A lot of the winter sports I haven't done, of course, but at some stage I did do ice hockey. So, yeah, there are lots. I mean, when I started, we had to be all-rounders. We had to be able to turn our hand to most things. So a lot of background swatting and learning about the sport, speaking to people who know about the sport and trying to gain some insight. But again, most cases, we would have an expert with us who was an ex-player or a current player. So we were fortunate to cut our teeth like that.
Wow, that's phenomenal, because then you become a Swiss Army knife, right? You aren't just a guy who can talk into a mic. You then need to become. So that's a skill, though, Gerald. We mustn't ignore that. Perhaps that's something we need to go back to is let's build, like you said, perhaps these ex-players are victims of poor training. Now, that's not on them. That's on the administrators is let's hone this craft. Hold guys back for 2 years before you let them in front of the camera, perhaps.
Yeah, it's difficult. There's a great deal to be gained out of, and there's a lot of competition out there. So they want the guys straight out of the dressing room, and it brings you great insight because you're not going to get, I don't believe, a straight answer on some of the thornier issues and some of the things that that how they're playing, because he's still mates with that guy, and he's not going to burn him. But in 5 years' time or 3 years' time down the road, it may well happen. So, yeah, and again, it's tricky. Us all-rounders are very old school, there are very few of us around. And
you in the radio days, on the wireless.
Yeah, back in the wireless days,
Oh, wow. Hey, Gerald, talk to me about the Olympics being cancelled. Do you think they'll be cancelled next year in Japan? Have you got any info on that? Because if you have, I'd like you to break it on this show so that we can have the most views on the planet. But if they get cancelled next
thing I would want.
Okay, well then, if they get cancelled,
pay in dollars.
Oh, Gerald, then okay, prayers up, thoughts and prayers that they don't. But if they are cancelled, do you think they'll move them back to 20 by a year, and then we have only a 2-year gap, or do you think if Tokyo is off, it is off?
Yeah, I really think that if Tokyo 2021 is off, and they're saying that unless their losses, cancel the games, and everyone will just have to hold on, and that'll be a very, very sad situation indeed for everyone, for the whole world. I mean, it'll be a travesty for the sporting world, for those who are just growing up in the sport. I spoke recently to Tabela Masuta, who's an international rower. He's the first black South African to win a medal at the Junior Rowing World Championships a couple of years ago. He's 20. He's sports that they never dreamt they'd even watch, let alone take part in. You take that away from them, it'll be a huge hole in
He was electrifying. What a guy he is. What do you think of him?
Good man. My
Isn't
son,
he the best?
In fact, rode with him as well. His is an amazing story, Lawrence. Absolutely incredible. They're an amazing family. And they are rowing royalty in this country. No question about Matthew. His elder brother was in that four that won gold in London. So, yeah, his story in recovering from cancer and winning a gold medal silver medal in Rio was incredible. I was on the plane going over to Rio, in fact, sitting nearby him, and we had a long chat. incredible athlete, and so dedicated. The courage, the focus. The rowers, I believe, are some of the most incredible athletes. The time and the commitment they give to their sport is just out of this world. And they are all very much, I would say all, but most of them are also sticking to their educational goals and academics and working hard to achieve their career goals, because rowing, as we know, is an amateur sport pretty much, and they're not earning much out of that. So very focused, and Lawrence is an amazing guy.
Hey, tough family. Imagine growing up in that family, 5 Springboks in that family, 2 doctors.
Yeah.
And I said to him yesterday, I don't know, you got to catch it. I said, look, let's get this thing straight now. Your mother must make sure that any women you marry genetically are going to produce X-Men, because I want to keep collecting gold medals for South Africa for the next, let's call it 36 to 40 years. I don't know what you think of that, Gerald. I mean, it's 5 Springboks in one family.
No, they're amazing. Yeah, they're an incredible family, and it does put an onus on the next generation, doesn't it? I think they'll have to turn to something else very quickly and become tennis players or something else, because the pressure to become a gold medalist in the rowing boat is hectic.
Just relentless. Absolutely unbelievable. And I think you just mentioned a great point there that I'd like to ask you a question. Now, we understand that sport is becoming a product, Gerald, and we have a contentious argument right now in world sport. I don't want to put you in this position, but it makes no sense to me that Olympians still don't get paid. I can't handle it, Gerald. For me, it is something that is asinine. It is asinine to me. I'm sorry, the honor of winning a gold medal, I get it. But perhaps you come from a different angle. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think that a whole lot of Olympic sports are amateur sports from top down, with very few. And where does it come down to? It comes down to media. It comes down to television. It comes down to eyeballs watching them play, and therefore sponsors. So how high profile are they? And do we see them week in, week out? So that, ultimately, I believe television drives the sporting world. And, if you're going to make a career out of a sport, try and make sure it's one that's high profile on television, because then you'll be able to garner the sponsorships and earn some money out of the sport. But otherwise, it's going to be a tough call. And passion is what drives them. We know the hockey players are struggling to put a meal on the table and to get to a provincial championship, let alone international. You see, that's the problem. So, will you watch skateboarding, surfing, rock climbing in preference to football? No, you won't. You'll watch your football, you watch your rugby, you watch your cricket, because that's where the entertainment is. And that, unfortunately, is how the sporting world revolves. I believe it's run by the media and the eyeballs, and that's where the money is. So amateur sports, some of them make some money, and yeah, it's a tough old world for them, I'm afraid. But I think they are the pick of all athletes, are those who play it for the passion and for the commitment.
Do you think paying them might dilute the product, the essence of it?
No, I think those sports are still, I don't, they're very few. But I mean, the big wave surfer Matt Bromley down in the Cape, he barely competes. He's one of the best big wave surfers in the world. He goes around the world and he makes videos, and he's got sponsors who sponsor him to make the videos and do stories. Occasionally he might go and compete in an event, but his whole world is around making films and documentaries around his life as a big wave surfer, chasing the story, chasing the indifference. So no, I don't think paying them will. I think it'll enhance the sport, because it'll bring, they'll be able to dedicate themselves more to playing the sport and become better athletes, which is ultimately what it's about. You pay them, they don't have to work, they don't have to worry about working, they become better athletes.
So, fair point. Lastly, to your first love, cricket. I suggested how we can save cricket. Do you think we should just can Test cricket and make it a one-day and T20 world? What is the solution to this mess? Because, Gerald, this can't go on.
I listened to you with great interest because I do have a feeling on this, and mine's contrary to yours, although similar.
Let's hear it.
Let's cricket is
Gerald the Kock
is cricket is it's 250 years old. It was designed, it was invented for the betting industry to bet on something, and it still is. It is the single most bet upon sport, if you like, because of every over there are 6 incidents. There is an incident to bet on every over. There's something happening. So that's why the sport was invented. It became a sport for the gentleman, and then it became a competitive sport, and so on. It's become too big in terms of the competitions. Test cricket, 50 over cricket, 20 over cricket. The sport is losing viewers, it's losing spectators, it's losing players. Take one of those out, as you have suggested. Take one away and put it in mothballs and put it in the record books and say that happened then. Now this is what we've got. We've got the pinnacle of the sport, which is Test cricket. Fully in agreement with you. I'm a Test cricket fan, and I'm absolutely 100% behind that. The other form of the game that should be played is 20 over cricket. Separate them completely, take 50 over cricket out of it completely, and have 2 very different sports like rugby 15s and rugby 7s, and they operate completely independent. Occasionally players might cross over, but they can operate in different, at the same time in different countries without impacting each other, and it'll develop a whole different new type of fans. 20 over cricket, Test cricket, it's the lifeblood of the game. Funds would obviously have to be channeled by the ICC to keep Test cricket going. But those people who are 50 over fans, a lot of those may go to Test cricket. Obviously, some will go to 20 over cricket. There's too much to watch. What do people say? Oh, I don't watch it. There's too much going on. Take one of them out. And I believe it's 50 over cricket that I'm afraid might have to go. It won't, but
absolutely.
That's my feeling.
Hey, you see, this is people helping people, because I had the first plan and you've just revised it. I totally agree with you. And look, Gerald, what must happen is it has to change. Whatever it is, right? Whether you and I are right or wrong, it has to change, or the game's dead.
Yeah, it's there are a lot of issues. It's top heavy. It's being run by too few nations, if you like. It's not gaining any ground globally. Regardless of the fact that you can bring Ireland in and Afghanistan in to play Test cricket. We've lost Zimbabwe, we've lost Kenya, remember, semi-finalists in the World Cup, remember that? Where are they? So they're not feeding the game at all, unfortunately. They're feeding the top table, and the rest of the world is just struggling along, bumbling along, and not growing as cricket-playing nations, and that's very, very sad. So something has to happen, yeah. I know there are tiers and there are different levels, but it's got to be more attractive to watch. It's got to be more exclusive. You've got to really want. You've got to. When is the next game? I can't wait to watch the next game.
Yes,
it's too much.
Scarcity is the name of the game in a capitalist world. Dave, won't you quickly bring up my idea of the championship and premiership teams in Test cricket, see what Gerald thinks about that. Let's have a look at that. Because, Gerald, here's what I think. Don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I saw this, yeah.
All right, so for me, here's what you do, right? Those top 4 are ready to go right now. So if we needed to say, okay, only 5 test tours, like you said, now it's been refined. We have T20 cricket in its own time, Test cricket in its own time. So here's what happens in the, let's say, 6 months where it's Test cricket. India, Australia, England, South Africa. You will all play each other in those 6 months. Only 5 test series, back to back to back. It'll produce, what's that, 5. So you're playing 15 test matches. I mean, they were playing sort of 12 a year anyway back in our time with one-day cricket, with T20. Now you're only playing your test matches. India, Australia, England, South Africa, they're ready to go now. But at the end of the season, the bottom 2 are relegated. So there is some urgency. It's not just everyone gets to have a cushy seat and leave. There is urgency, and you're out for another, let's call it a 12-month or 18-month cycle, however long it takes to complete the teams in Championship and Premier League. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think 2 teams is harsh. to drop two teams out, but that'll keep it very dynamic, and it'll keep the bottom level, the championship teams, really focused. And I think that's fantastic. Again, the T20 be completely different. You can bring in you can bring 5, 6, 7, 10 nations in, other nations, and so you have a much big. The 5 Test series. I know you're a great fan of 5 Test series, and I love them. I don't know that, and maybe this is another thing. Maybe Test cricket does go to 4-day cricket. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's time. So if they are only playing Test cricket, then
yes. So Gerald, I really, this is an honor for me, because I'm not just saying it because you're here. You are somebody who I looked up to my entire childhood, and I'm making a dream come true, and very few people get to make a dream come true. So I want to thank you for joining me. And before I let you go, let's see what the public have to say to the great Gerald de Kock. Questions, Dave.
Hey, thanks, Zimbelelo. Gerald, before we go to the questions, I'm actually just going to ask a question myself. You've obviously watched a hell of a lot more cricket than I have.
Not a lot, actually.
Before you answer that, by the way, that is the voice of God, our producer extraordinaire guru. That's the voice everybody is hearing, just so they know. Carry on.
I didn't hear anything. I'm sorry. I haven't heard a thing.
Oh, okay. Well, Dave was saying, who is your favorite player? And not the best player. Who's your favorite cricketer that you've ever kind of come across, watched, or whatever it may be?
Wow. Look, I'd probably like to say my son Zach bowled out your producer David many years ago, but that's not a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Considering
and story for a different day.
Zach was 4 and David was 25. But anyway,
let's just cut it.
I didn't see a lot of him play live, but just a beautiful natural talent. I had
another great commentator, by the way, Bauer.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the privilege of watching Michael John Proctor, an all-rounder who was an absolute legend, and he ran in. He was he was about 10 yards from the boundary rope. And when he ran in, and he wasn't a tall man, Procky, but he ran in full pass on him. But yeah, there's so many, the technical and calm and composure, the brilliance of Sachin was something outrageous. The modern players are next level, because I believe technique that you learned from the MCC coaching manual is now secondary. It's how you hit the ball. It doesn't really matter. It's how far you hit the ball and how hard you hit the ball. And it's wonderful because these guys hit the ball miles, hit it hard. The confidence, the belief in themselves is just phenomenal. And so, yeah, there are too many, but Lara was a great to watch and broadcast on. He could turn a game around in a couple of overs. And Viv Richards back in the 80s. What a legend.
Hey, Gerald, who's the greatest of all time? Steve Smith, Ricky Ponting, or Sachin Tendulkar?
Steve Smith, Ricky Ponting, or Sachin? I've got a Sachin weakness for Sachin Tendulkar.
All right.
I think that Sachin was and is the greatest of all time. One of the reasons I'll give is that to play for India is like playing, for no other country. The Aussies have football and they have Aussie rules, they have rugby and they have, a lot of things. So, there's a lot of pressure, but it's not like playing for India cricket. So the pressure that Sachin had to play under every time he batted was quite extraordinary.
Since he was 16. All right, we got a question for you here from Jared Botha. He says, Gerald, how old were you when the Timeless Test was played, and what was it like to watch it live? Unbelievable. For those that don't get that,
I'm still waiting for the boat. I'm still waiting for the boat to come in. That's why the Timeless Test ended.
That's like early 20th century for those people who don't get why. That is funny. Jacques Joubert says, Gerald, what's your best sporting commentary memory from an event you covered? Great question.
Yo, yeah, it's so funny because it's this day, 25 years ago, you and I were in the same stadium in Ellis Park. You remember that day, don't you?
I was there, Joel Stransky.
It was you were. I didn't see you though, but I was. I commentated on that, and my second opinions man on that day was Nick Mallett, who went on in 1990. He was our comments guy for that whole. He was living and coaching in France, and he brought a party of fans to watch the World Cup, and we co-opted him. Once he'd settled his clients in the stands, he'd come dashing in and our opinions man. So he was sitting alongside us during that World Cup. Quite incredible. Because he went on to coach the 99 World Cup, of course. But that day at Ellis Park was big. But I think the 95 opening game of the 95 World Cup, favorite moments right up. The final, we'd had 4 or 5 weeks of build-up. Now we were in the final. That was a completely new slate. No one knew what was going to happen. In the final, yes, we could win or lose, and we're not the best side, but we could lose, we could win. Whereas that opening game had an electricity about it that was quite extraordinary. So that opening game, and I'll tell you that the All Africa games were hosted in South Africa in the late 90s. And the hockey final between Egypt and South Africa was played at the Randburg Astro surface there. And lo and behold, the anthems were played. And the second anthem to be played was the South African anthem. And the public address system failed. So there was this quietness around the game. Full house, very rare, full house for the hockey stadium there, but it was lovely to see.
Wow.
And there was about a 15, 20-second silence. And then the hockey team of South Africa broke out and sang the entire anthem from start to finish. This is 1998, I think it was. It was one of those spine-tingling moments where it just set the place alight, and they went on and won the gold medal. So those sort of moments are rich. Jana Novotny crying on the Duchess of York's shoulder at Wimbledon had me almost in tears. It was one of those emotive moments. I was working at Wimbledon in those days, and those sort of things. Too many. I'm very lucky, very, very lucky.
Oh, wow. Some of these moments, when you talk about that moment with Jana Novotny, that makes me want to cry. That is an awesome moment in history. Andrew says, Gerald, would you say your greatest achievement in life is being compared to Arnold Getz?
Do you really believe you're talking to Gerald de Kock?
It's unbelievable.
I've had you. I've had
this
you
whole
on
time
for an hour. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You finally got to it.
That's it. Arnold Getz. Incredible. Mark LaRue says, what's your thoughts on mass events like Sani to see mountain bike, etc.? How will it move forward? As a rider, are you afraid of too many people? As a commentator, come MC, would you rather stay away? I presume that's in the COVID context, of course. For those who don't know, those are large mountain bike events in South Africa and some of the biggest in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's finally some sensible. I mean, I see we've got some sensible viewers and listeners out there. That's cool. So this is a big question. I mean, and Sani to see probably the biggest 3-day event in the world. They postponed it from May to December, and first week of December, it may or may not happen. Personally, I'm quite happy to go. I have a feeling that the COVID-19, I think we might all get it at some stage, and we will deal with it in whatever way. I don't, that's my feeling. So I'm quite happy to go to the events and take part, and be it take part or commentate on them. I don't have a problem. I don't think that a lot of those events will happen. I cannot see them allowing mass events to happen. Probably, maybe Sani to see in December might be the first one. We've got Wines to Wales in early November. As you know, the Cape Pioneer Trek has been postponed. So, yeah, there are big issues with that. Mass 500-600 people, 1,000 people together, that's going to be tricky. But personally, I don't have a problem going to them.
Wow. All right. Well, Gerald de Kock, I like that. Hey, Gerald, you're going to have to come back because we have so much more to talk about. And you've been so gracious with your time. It's been unbelievable. Great chat. And I can't wait to have you back. Have a great time there in the Midlands. Or in the,
Thanks, Malelo, and great to be on your show. Yeah,
absolutely.
It's all the Midlands. It's in the mountains, We love it here in
the mountains of Durban.
It's cold. Yeah, it's not too
brilliant. Gerald, thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Gerald the Kock. Very, very good. And that has been a different ball game for today, folks. Tomorrow, by the way, we are back. Banger. Probably South Africa's greatest footballer of all time, arguably. We have the great, and I don't use that word often, the great Steven Pienaar. That is who's on the show tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a different ball game. Cannot wait to see you on the morrow.